call back? Would you call back? Cause I know that I need your presence. Cause I need a girl that seems like heaven. And you're the only one in the 317. So if you don't pick up, I'ma leave a message so you know.
Alex, how are we doing today?
We're doing well. So,
Thank you very much for joining us.
dude, thank you for having me.
This is the first interview of our Summer 2021 music collection. Alex has been making music for how long?
I've been making it probably seriously for, honestly, I'd just say a year now, probably.
All right. When did you start? When was the first, or you know what got you into it? What made you sit down and decide I want to make some music?
Well, so I thought about this because this kind of popped into my mind not too long ago. But I was thinking about how in middle school is when I kind of that's when I kind of realized oh, you can discover your own music, and that can be, that can be good.
Right.
It's not just whatever's playing on the radio. And I was thinking, and it's actually really funny because this is just such a silly song, but in middle school, oh my God. And I know a lot of people are the same way who just thought when you're rebellious and you're listening to rap music or trap music. I remember when I was on a music pirating website, I heard the song Bugatti by Ace Hood. It's
Really?
the most gangster, non-Indiana song you can ever hear. And I remember just little 12-year-old me being like, whoa, this guy, he knows what this guy must have he's waking up in Bugattis, Payne. He knows what apparently he's got his life figured out. But
yeah, I would not have pinpointed you as an Ace Hood guy. That's
oh
funny.
well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say. I mean,
Just
sometimes
one song.
yeah, sometimes in the gym I'll play that song, but that's about it. I mean, but kind of when I that journey of kind of discovering music is kind of when I started also experimenting with noticing patterns, noticing you know what, I feel like I could do this. And then in middle school, there was an app on the iTunes store called Auto Rap, Smule Auto Rap, and it was the most silly little record a little rap verse on your iPhone. You could rap battle people on the internet. It was really fun, but that's kind of the first time where I actually recorded stuff, wrote something down or thought about it in my head, and recorded it. And then from there, it went from me and some of my other buddies. We were making these joke music videos and putting them on YouTube. But it wasn't until a year ago where I was like, you know what? I feel like I have some messages, I have some stories, I have, even if
Content.
content. I got some stuff, I have a little bit of this experience under my belt. I want to try and do this for real and just have fun with it and see what happens. And that's kind of where I started. Not only did I start writing, I guess real music, but also really writing the music, producing.
Right.
Yeah. But
so
yeah,
that goes well with what I was going to ask next, which is you've been making music obviously since middle school, at least recreationally, and you've been doing it professionally, you might say, for the last year. How has your music changed over time, and what's changed about it?
I'd say certainly the transition from purposefully funny stuff,
right,
to more serious stuff. Also more, talking about action. How do I phrase it? Talking about my actual life or aspects of my actual life, opposed to,
following the trends.
Just following trends, making a song about.
I'm with you.
Whatever, and just because that's the trendy thing to do, but definitely more explaining, my actual life. Definitely one of the things I think that I'm pretty good at, and one of the things that I kind of like to do is kind of explain, my life, the way I grew up, which is not something very well covered, I'd say in pop or hip hop. But kind of explaining it in a way that does kind of fit the trend, does kind of follow trends. So it's digestible, but it's still unique, it's still authentic, and it actually portrays my life, but in a way who someone, who listens to modern trendy music can digest and be like, oh, I kind of like
so
this.
So kind of using the music as a medium to tell your own story.
Yeah, tell my own story. I definitely, I'm sure you'll ask me about this in a little bit, but definitely some of the music I've released has been like almost like anecdotal stories,
right?
Like created from multiple different experiences, but then I kind of just tailor those into one story that even in itself may not be 100% true, but it's composed of multiple different fragmented experiences, and I just kind of made this mosaic from it, you know.
And it's relatable to people that you know, and to people that also grew up in this area.
Yes.
And it's an adaptation of music that they might not have originally seen, like you said before.
Yeah.
So tell us about your creative process. How do you take an idea and turn it into the bars, and then mix that into the music? How does all that happen?
So ever since it used to be when I was finding beats on the internet, I'd find a beat on the internet and I'd see how it made me feel, and then I'd see what kind of like message. So it'd be I'd find a beat, how it made me feel, what kind of experiences have made me also feel like that, and then I'd start writing about those experiences. Yes.
I see.
Now with like music production, when I actually am writing stuff, like creating stuff from scratch, I'll start off with like, you know, I'll start off with the emotion or the idea. When I was working with Julia, it was like, how are you feeling? What do you want to like? What do you want to talk about today? Mm-hmm. And then we go from there.
So you sort of went from taking the music and creating, letting the music create the feeling, to letting the feeling create the music.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then as far as writing, sometimes it depends. I guess it depends on the story or the song. Sometimes I'll actually plan it out like a movie. Like, you know, this is going to be about this. This first verse is going to be about this. The second verse is going to be about
like
this.
Like
a story. Yeah. And then the chorus will be some sort of overarching theme that like plays really in between. And I think it's really cool. Now, granted, some songs are more abstract than that, and you don't like it itself is not necessarily a story, but so I don't know. And sometimes I definitely say I'm someone who like very much thinks about it, plans it out, and then makes the song. I'm not really someone who just kind of like shows up to the studio or whatever and then is
like less of a freestyle and more of a planned out storytelling, moral type.
Yeah, and I know that some people some artists view that as kind of like, oh, it's like you're treating art as like homework and it's not as organic, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I just like organizing my thoughts. That's just always been the way I was.
That makes sense to me.
You know, I've been, but.
So you've been involved with music for a long time, producing and mixing for other artists throughout, high school.
Yeah.
And last September you released music with Julia, 3-song pack, excellent. What's your favorite part of working with other artists?
It is just the new perspective, new ideas. I mean, sometimes it's even just someone saying like, "That's not good. You can't. You got to change."
Feedback as well.
That's pretty funny. The feedback's really important to me. But honestly, I think it's just sharing it. Like when you put out the song that you did with someone else, you know that there's someone else that is equally excited to share it. You don't feel like you're in it alone, and not that that's a bad thing at all. I definitely think you need to make some songs, even solo. But I definitely have just had the most fun doing with other people. Like, you get feedback, you get to bounce ideas off of each other, and especially in the case, like, obviously, I'm not a good singer, but working with a really good singer, it's just so many new opportunities for music.
It transforms the possibilities that you have, because when you have a really good singer with you, and you ordinarily aren't a good singer on your own, you can make a lot more.
Yeah, and you can, now that's a whole nother instrument, if you will, that you can work with. So yeah, definitely, I've loved working with other artists. It's just, like, I think it just comes down to the creative experience. It's just so much more fun, in my opinion.
Right.
And it's just two minds working together. So
more minds make better music. How is this community that you've been raising? At Habitat Sartorial, we're all about Indianapolis. That's the type of people that we're helping, the 317, and the 317 is Greater Indianapolis, so it
Yeah.
includes here. There's obviously a lot of variety in the ways that people grow up in this area. What about you? How has it built your music?
So and this really wasn't anything that I really even focused on until really recently with kind of the stuff that I'm working on right now that I haven't released. But no, it's definitely influenced my music by, obviously shaping my life experiences. I think that Indianapolis is really cool because it doesn't really have like a set style, if that makes sense.
Set
Like,
identity.
yes, there's no set musical identity. So it's like, I'm just, like Atlanta,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
I
at
was
least with
thinking the
hip,
same
I was
thing,
thinking,
Atlanta.
hip hop, Atlanta, oh, it's like, oh, that's like trap.
Right.
Or like
West Coast
Chicago,
G-Funk.
that's soul, or it's drill, or like New York rap, or what, like whatever, or, just all that kind of stuff. Yeah, funk music, whatever. There's no like ironed identity, which I think is so cool because I feel like it's like nothing's off limits to me.
Right.
Like I could have a song that sounds like a country song and then just throw like a house beat on there. And if it works, I mean, like, as far as I'm concerned, this song is part of, like, that is the sound of the 317 area.
Yeah.
Or I could have, like, a DJ Mustard West Coast synth pop beat, and it's like, that's also the sound of the 317 or whatever. Like, I just think it's so
you
cool.
don't have bounds or expectations. You can
No,
fit in how you
yes,
like.
I don't feel like I have to do it. Like, I don't feel like I have to make any sort of sound. And that's been so cool. I mean, and I definitely like fantasize about like, oh, what if I got big, or what if me and my friends, what if we got big, and like what we did, like the music that we make, that became the identity.
Right.
Like you were directly responsible for that.
Yeah.
That would, I mean, that's so cool. It's definitely a motivation to just be like, there's this whole like frontier,
It's kind of like a blank slate.
Yes.
And you see you and the people that you work with building that, drawing on that, and making Indianapolis's music identity.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Well, and definitely, and I think to answer some of the other questions too, like growing up in this community, which is very affluent, yet not quite like entirely uniform. Certainly not as uniform as a lot of people from this community think.
Right.
And also being close to very, very, very different areas has been so cool because I think that, especially growing up here, artists have such a cool, in my opinion, a new, they have a whole like life experience that I really don't think has been touched by a lot of music. I mean, like really, and I think that because of that, I know a lot of artists, like we were talking about earlier, who kind of just follow trends.
Yeah.
And I feel like they follow trends because they have this new, people have this new, or people are in this kind of like, they live in the suburbs or they live in like the Midwest, and because it's such a blank slate, people are scared to like trailblaze a little bit.
Yeah.
So they just kind of follow trends or,
It's like a credibility thing. They feel like they can't tell their story using this medium of music because it isn't for them or something.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like I'm from the suburbs, so I can't make country music.
Yeah.
I'm from the suburbs, so I can't make like rap music or whatever. Like and I think you're right. A lot of people feel like that, but I think it's the coolest thing because I'm like, it's just all on the table in my opinion.
It's all you can use all of it or none of it or come up with something different.
Yeah,
and
I mean
that's part of the 317.
It's part of the 317. I mean, because we have so many different, just styles, so many different styles of people, background cultures.
Even in this group of people that we are going to be talking to in these interviews, there's so many different ideas building that same community, drawing on that blank slate that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Finally, what is next for you? What kind of music do you have in the works? You don't have to tell us more than you want to. You want to be a little secretive, but what message do you have for your fans? So
right now I am working on stuff, and I feel like I've been saying that, and it's been a while since I've made since I've released some original music. I've been working on a lot of stuff. I am still in school, so I'm kind of trying to balance that. Some of my other personal like projects going on, but music's always on the forefront. It's a hobby when it comes down to the actual execution of my life, but it is always on the forefront. Like anytime I just I'm feeling
creative.
Well, creative. It just truly makes me happy. And I feel like it's one of the things that I am kind of good at. And I'm not saying my music that I've released is good. I just, at least it's good enough for me that it makes me happy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what's next? I'm working on. I actually do have some fully done stuff. I just have held off on releasing it because I don't want to just release a single or two. I kind of want to get a larger body, larger than the 3-song pack. I will say, actually, I took the 3 songs that I made with Julia, and I actually reimagined them, so I fully remade the beats for all of them, and I will be releasing that. I'm going to try and release it on the anniversary of our first pack. I know it's not...
That's September, right?
September. I can't remember off the top of my head what day it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be towards the end of September. And I wouldn't really consider that fully original because it's just kind of the reimagining.
Right.
But I definitely learned some stuff from mixing to producing. I think I do think it'll be a cool fresh spin. But like I said, I also have some unfinished stuff.
Do you view it as a possible, if you were to blow up in the colloquial sense, would you view it as a career that you'd pursue?
Yes, hands down. Yeah. I will 100% get my college degree. Mostly because if I were to blow up, and I were to ever have a family, I'd want my kids, if I had kids, to see like, oh, my dad got his degree, even though he I don't want to set a precedent in the modern world where a degree is so necessary for so many things that you don't not to get that. But no, I would do it, and
You'd rather be a master of 2 trades. You pursue the sort of traditional route, if you will, of getting a degree, but also show your kids, like you were talking about, that pursuing creativity can bring just as much.
Yeah, and what makes you happy? Because I could make just enough kind of like to live and get by. As long as I'm doing something I love. For me, it's funny because there's so many artists actually who their whole thing is like, I don't want to be famous. I just want to be rich. I just want to like get all this money and whatever. I'm the opposite way. I don't want to. I would love to just be locally known and locally enjoyed. Be able to go, whatever, and
have somebody stop you.
Have someone be like, "Oh my God,
yeah,
I love your music." I'd love that. If I could perform, even if it's just performing at like bars or something like small, definitely.
Be able to share your talent with the community.
Yeah, I would love that. And certainly once I graduate from school, even if I get like a traditional job, which I will probably end up doing unless I were to blow up.
Yeah,
I'd still make music just because I love it too much. It is just so cool. So.
We'll keep working. We'll be looking forward to those reimagined songs in September. Thank you very much for coming. This has been Alex Conrad.
Thank you for having me.
Mackenzie Taylor for Habitat Sartorial.
Yep.